Welcome to the Center for Transformation Institute podcast, where we are uniting therapists everywhere for personal and professional growth. Your journey starts here, at the place therapists grow.
Chris and Jen, it's so good to be with you two.
Thank you. Good to be here with you.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. Thank you.
yeah, I'm so excited to be able to connect. And I mean, I remember meeting you two first when I came to Thrive training in 2017. So
Yes.
it's been a bit of time. And I think, Jen, you were the track one trainer that year.
Probably, yes. Yep, that's one of I love leading track one. It's very fun.
Yeah, that's great. And then Chris, I've been able to get your ear on some things through the years. And so I really am glad just to be able to connect like this and for others in our audience to hear from you too. Now, as we get started, would you mind telling our audience a little bit about what you do?
Yes. So Jen and I run Thrive Training, which started out as a little bit of an experiment in 2002. I was part of a ministry that specialized in serving severe trauma. And I had met Jim Wilder actually in 1997. He was one of the few voices in the wilderness back then for a lot of therapists and counselors and pastors looking for like Christian help and guidance that was respectable, working with people with severe trauma. And I can clearly remember Jim talking about the brain and joy and listening to Jim for the first time. It like explained my life, but it also explained those that I was serving with the ministry that I was a part of. And so many years later, now little did I know, we would have the chance to partner with Jim and start creating some training to help people really apply the life model and learn the skills behind the life model. And Jen, I'll let you jump in here with that.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things about the life model is that when working with Christians, it helps people identify who they were meant to be in Christ, who God created them to be, and then the relational skills that we teach and train kind of help people be able to live that out. So I just love being a part of it, especially because it's changed my life so much that I love getting to share what has impacted me so much with others.
And a lot of people were reading the Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You book, and they were saying, this is really good information. They were having kind of a similar response to me, like, oh, this just explains so much. But the $1 million question is they weren't quite sure how to bridge from the theory to the practice. And so one of Jim's goals early on was just, hey, let's see if we can create practices where people can do some exercises and do some sorts of activities that would help them be able to learn joy, to be able to learn how do I return to joy, to be able to get unstuck in their maturity. It was really a sort of an experiment. We did not know if the boat was going to float. But it did. And here we are, almost 23 years later, running trainings to help people learn those relational skills.
Yes. Well, the way we think of it here at CFT Institute is that you all were on the cutting edge of new neuroscience back then. And where it's taken psychology this many years to catch up and have that be a part of our trainings in our educational programs. But Dr. Wilder was able to grab that Allen Shore research. You two were right there at the very beginning of that and helped to create these brain, relational brain skill, the skills, the topics, and just how to implement them in our lives. And so we really admire what you do and really have a high value for it, in that as we're developing our curriculum, we're finding how do we pull what Thrive today has already implemented and put it into this program for therapists so that therapists can give it to clients. So I just admire and am so excited about what God has done in your lives and how he's using you to bring this to the church and the masses. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and we're excited about what you're doing because ultimately, Thrive was born in the context of helping people become the best version of themselves. And so I was the leader of what we'd like to call a redemptive community where people were just trying to get on their feet. People were just trying to heal and to grow. And a lot of people that was really interested in the life model were therapists. They're like, how do I use this? And so I'm really excited about what you're doing because you're taking it to places where people are going to want to go. And when we started, we did not know what to expect. We didn't even know if we were going to do it again. The early days were just like, let's try this. And so I was testing this as part of this redemptive community, serving people. And I can remember several years into it, Jim had said, in about 10 to 15 years, you'll start hearing this stuff in other pockets of the world, but it's going to take about 10 to 15 years for universities and so forth to be able to start using this stuff. And it was very prophetic. Now, looking back on it, I didn't really even fully understand what he was saying until down the road, it started to get out there, would start to hear a little more. And now there's just such a hunger and a thirst for the brain science and just how to really help people grow and heal and be the best version of themselves.
And how to enjoy each other, right? How to have joy and enjoy community because the world is a scary and sad place, but we have each other.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well said.
That's beautiful. So I think you've kind of said a little bit about what your life model story is, Chris. Is there anything else you might want to add to that, like in terms of how you originally learned about the model, or do you want to pass on to Jen?
Yeah, I'll pass on to Jen because I'm excited about what she's going to share because I've gotten to watch this really play out in Jen's life. So I'll let her share a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, the life model was really a profound impact for me. When I came across the life model, I was in a season. I grew up in a home that just was pretty low on joy and pretty high on fear and hopeless despair. So we had a lot of the wrong things and not very much of the right things going on there. I was even hospitalized for suicidal depression at age 11. And then about the time that my friends were graduating from college, I ended up just bottoming out and not being able to function. I'd gone from super high functioning to not functioning at all, and was on federal disability because while my friends were going out and getting their first jobs, I was just not able to, getting out of bed was a good day. And it was about that time that I was introduced to the Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You book and the idea of relational skills and maturity. And I went, oh, this is what's missing. This is why sometimes I can be high functioning and then the bottom drops out and I can't function at all. And it was confusing to me before that because I didn't understand why. I mean, and even when I was high functioning, it wasn't a pretty high functioning. It was just, people looked at me and thought, wow, you can get a lot done. But I didn't have peace and I didn't have joy. I just knew how to get stuff done. And when you're running on the fuel of fear, you run out of, you start running on fumes and then you just stop running. So that's kind of what happened to me when I was introduced to this. It explained so much about what was missing and it gave me a path forward. Like, oh, these are the things that I need. And these are the things that would make a difference. And if I intentionally pursue these pieces that I'm missing, then maybe I can have a more steady, stable functioning as opposed to high and then no functioning kind of a pattern.
Yeah. And the thing that's been helpful about the life model, honestly, is, I knew a lot when I first encountered the material. I already kind of understood the effects of the bad things that happen that really shouldn't happen, that what life model calls type B traumas. But I never had heard a whole lot about the painful absences. And so when I came across the life model, it gave a language for like what I was seeing in those that I was helping. And it even provided a bit of a roadmap to understand like why we need capacity as part of the healing journey, why we need maturity. And these were things like intuitively, I probably knew at some level, but I didn't have the lens or the language. And so learning about joy and joyful relationships, all of these things, it profoundly, impacted me, and it helped explain what I was missing as a helper, and to be able to actually do something about it. So, for both Jen and I, this has just radically changed our lives. I mean, it's fun to be able to parent together and, live this in our lives, and just to watch each other, how we've grown and how we're better at recovering, when we lose our joy or our peace, and how to help our children learn the skills that we honestly did not have earlier in life. So it's a very satisfying journey.
So what I hear you two saying, and I think similar to me as well, is that when you came across a life model, you needed it and you were able to implement it into your personal life, and now you see it affecting your life in terms of the way that you are with one another, the way that you parent your children, and then also in the way that you are in your professional life, right? And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about how. Now I know that you, with Thrive Today, you run conferences and there's ongoing groups that are happening, but I also know that you each talk with people one-on-one, and sometimes do like more intensive type work like therapists do, right? And so you do like maybe more of a pastoral counseling type one-on-ones, and work with couples and families. Yeah. Can you talk about how the transformation of self for yourself has impacted your ability to help people in those individual ways?
Oh yeah. Jen, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think one of the most profound differences for me is noticing like emotions. So not just noticing them, but noticing the difference in how I handle emotions, and what a difference that makes in how I can be with people in their emotions. So before, when I didn't feel comfortable in any of my own emotions, I also could not join people in theirs. And probably would be more talking them out of them, trying to help them feel better intellectually about it. But when I became comfortable in my own emotions and could find my way back to joy and peace from my own emotions, then I could sit with people in theirs and help them find their way back to joy and peace. But when I don't have that comfort level in emotions and those pathways in my brain back to joy and peace, I'm also not going to be able to be with people in those emotions well and lead them back to joy and peace and help them create those pathways in their own brains. So I know that has been a huge difference for me.
Yeah. That's saying it well. And I'd say for me, it's very similar in that I'm actually able to be present for people in their journey and not fight to stay in my comfort zone. In the past, I didn't have the skills or the bandwidth to really be able to enter in and be able to help people feel, share, and quiet their upsets. And in the past, that would have kind of freaked me out, to be very honest about it. I just wouldn't have been able to show up that way. And so this is, from that perspective, really helping people to feel connected in the hard places, night and day.
It's interesting what the two of you are saying. It's reminding me of something I heard Dr. Wilder say, and I want to say I heard him say it at Denver Thrive last year. Something about how professional therapists oftentimes have to shut off their own emotion in order to navigate or handle what's going on in the room, right? Because I think, like with what you were saying, Jen, we don't have the capacity. If we don't have the capacity to stay present, we have to fake it. And really, when it comes to that, I don't know if we're really what we're offering, right? If we're offering an as if or a masked self, then really that right brain to right brain connection isn't happening.
Yes.
More of like, I'm in fear and I'm faking, like I want to help you. And what I hear you both saying is the growth that you've had personally with the life model concepts has helped you learn to stay present with people in all kinds of emotional experiences.
Oh, it's such a big, and honestly, that is, I can't stress how big of a deal that is, as those precious ones that I'm serving, they look to me like, can you handle what I can't handle? Because this is big and this is scary. And in the past, I would have wanted to jump
Right.
out of the plane with my parachute.
Right. Exactly. No, I mean, just the other day, a client said something to me, and it was a little jolting for me. And I was just honest. I said, "This is a bit hard for me.
Yeah.
I'm being honest with you.
Mhm.
Right? There's something that's going on between us,
Mhm.
and I'd rather have my therapist be honest with me
Yes.
than put on a mask and
Oh, yeah.
you just want something real. And so to be able to have that capacity to kind of stay in the game with people, I think makes them feel so safe.
Yeah, it does, because they feel that, and it's so neat how you navigated that. Like, you were very honest, and I'm sure that was actually really helpful for the person to hear that. Like, hey, we're going to be real here.
Right.
Because what we want to grow is a house built on rock, not on sand. And so being able to sit with people and be real and be glad to be with them even while they're working through hard stuff, I mean, that's just life changing.
Huge,
Life changing.
huge. Isn't it in the first chapter of Living from the Heart where the authors say, if therapists pretend that they're not real, then they're really not offering what needs to be offered, and there won't be resolution of trauma, et cetera, et cetera. And then I
Yes.
oftentimes use too, it's I think the third chapter, if not the second chapter of Transforming Fellowship, where there's this conversation around um, informed consent, and how, this whole idea of the therapist has to be stoic and put on this, this presentation of almost like a hierarchical
Yeah.
that then doesn't really allow the bond to come.
That's right.
And professional psychotherapy is now understanding that that's not going to work. That's
Yes.
going to work. But I think Thrive Today and the life model has been ahead of the game in helping us understand that since Thrive Today has been around since the 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, it was Jim and I started working together in 2001, and then our first Thrive training was in 2002. And so Wilder, in a sense, was just way ahead of his time. He was applying all this great brain science that was coming out of UCLA and Alan Shore, and like he took the ball and ran. And thankfully, we were able to kind of run after him and work with him, and it's changed our lives. And honestly, just watching that ripple effect in other people as they go down this road, it's so amazing to watch. Just what a gift to watch people run and become joyful and peaceful, and just reach their goals and become better versions of themselves. What an honor to watch that.
Of faith for me, as I watch what God is doing. This is his work on the earth.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fun to be a part of it. It's meaningful, fun, it's exciting, and honoring for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So good.
Yeah.
So I think the last question I want to ask you, and I'm not sure what you think about this, but what I think one of the hardest parts for us in our program is helping therapists who are so busy, right? So busy, don't have enough time. They need to get their trainings in, but they really it's all they can do to keep their head above the water with family and their community involvement and their own clients. And then so when we say to them, hey, there's this new training, we want you to, this is really amazing, you need to pay attention to it, they're like, I don't know if I can. So what would you tell therapists who know nothing or even just a little bit about life model to help them understand how profound this model is and how worth it is to take the time to pay attention.
Yeah, well, I'll take a page out of your playbook, Monica. I love your testimony about how somebody gave you a book and you had so many books. And one day you decided to pick up a book, a life model book, and you started reading it. And that was the start of, here you are training and creating and developing. And I love that, honestly. And that is such, I think, a good way to approach this is, just taste it. Life is so full. Therapists, especially, your plates are so full. The thing I really like about the life model and what I like about what you're doing, Monica, is you're creating resources, you're creating solutions. Like, this is what's going to save you so much time and energy over the long run. Like, this is going to be so much more effective. And just tasting it, just being willing to dip your toe in the water, even to explore, Monica, what you're doing for people to just crack that open and taste it. And honestly, I think that's what's going to speak volumes. Like, here is something that not only is going to help me personally, but it's going to really help those that I'm serving. Like, this is a win-win as far as I'm concerned. It's a win-win. And it's been tested a long time. Like, we've been running and testing this stuff with Wilder and colleagues for a long time, and it works.
Right.
It works.
Yes. It's like a matter of just dip your toe in the water, just see what you think. Read one book or listen to one podcast or one portion of a training and see what you think. Mm-hmm. Because those of us who've been walking with it for a while, we're the testers, and it's working.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. I would add that one of the things about the model, and about especially the practices of relational skills, is that it actually builds our capacity. And so if therapists are feeling overwhelmed and low on capacity, yes, it's one more thing and it's hard to fit in, but it pays off. It's an investment that pays off, not just in how they can show up for their clients, but even in their own lives and their own strength, their own capacity, their own strength for dealing with the stresses of life. And so I think it's worth it, because you have to put into it, but you get more out of it than you put into it.
That is so well said. And in fact, it reminded me of the conversation I had with Betty and Dan Lessine. You know them well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
First met them at that track one I went to in 2017. And so just have been getting reconnected with them in the last year in terms of their input around a lot of this. Betty does some amazing work with highly traumatized children. And she said that just almost word for word what you just said, Jen, just that what she noticed was that her capacity for working with the traumatized population has become so much more, that she's more rested going into her work week, or, even coming out of it, than she ever was before.
That's incredible. Yeah. And that really does kind of bring home the joy of going down this road. And I love it because it's touched all of my life. It's helped my family, my marriage, my own, like, it's just touched everything that I love and value. And that is a win.
Yeah, everything. And I mean, I know you were saying you have family in town right now. There's a multi-generational. It really does. Everyone in my family, even if they haven't read a life model book, been impacted by the joy that is now becoming a part of our community at a higher level. I totally agree.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. So good. Well, I'm so glad we were able to do this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, just being willing to take some time today. It was really good to be with you.
Yeah. Thank you for all you're doing, Monica.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Place Therapists Grow. We hope you will join us again next week. To expand your knowledge and continue your growth journey, go to cftinstitute.com and take our introductory course to find out how the life model can enhance your life and your clients' lives too. We look forward to continuing to learn and grow with you. See you next time.